Tim, Tim, where are you? It's our morning coffee meeting. Oh, that's a nice shirt. That's a nice shirt.
Yeah, you're dressed to the nines too early on a Monday morning as we're filming this.
I got this from my clean laundry pile, and it originally came from a shop called tpublic.com.
Heard of them. High quality stuff, only the highest of quality. And if you're not satisfied, the return policy is A1. Not even kidding about that.
That's actually true.
For that. It's just really good. Really good.
We'll get into
that. We'll get into that later. So yeah, we got each other's swag on this morning. And Mike.
This wasn't planned. That guy planned. I didn't plan. This is how I got up this morning.
Right on. So listen, obviously, folks, you know him. It's Mike Ladano, Mike LeBrain. He's the man, the myth, the legend. Grab a stack of rocking your Friday nights, and very, very common's not the right word. Like common knowledge, no. Frequent's the word I'm looking for. Frequent co-host on Tim's Vinyl Confessions, which is what this is. We have, wow. I may have to edit this out, but hey, good. Hi, everybody. It's Tim Derling, Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Mike is with me, and if we're a little bit giddy, we got something very, very cool to talk about.
We've been waiting.
We, as anyone knows, Mike and I are both big Journey fans. It hasn't been easy to be a Journey fan in the last year or so. It's actually been quite taxing, and you know, Mike and I have talked. I actually went on a kind of a, well, I don't know what you call it, not a very, very quiet boycott where I
would say it was a quiet, private message-based boycott.
Yeah. And I didn't post on my feeds anything concerning Journey from September till sometime in March, not once.
But if you poked the bear, you'd hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not wanting to get into all of that nonsense.
Let's just say that there's two factions. There's the John Kane and Neil Sean factions, and it's not pretty. But they managed to complete their 50th anniversary tour.
They managed to decided they wanted that money. No, I'm glad. You know, they're professionals. You know, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Well, more power to them.
Imagine. You know, we've all had a job with a toxic coworker.
Yeah,
it's not fun. And imagine you both have to be there to make the job happen. And you know, for them, it's crazy. And spouses got involved. It's just ugly.
Pingers got involved. Spouses got involved.
Yeah,
and through it all, ex-members.
Yeah, it's just an ugly situation. And sadly, it dampened my enthusiasm for the new album, Freedom. Which was a great album. Which is a good album. Yeah. I never listened to it. I was just so put out by the antics. Don't need to know all that stuff, right? Like there was a time all this stuff happened behind the scenes. It wasn't documented, and you know, you didn't have blabbermouth or you know, louder sound posting about it, and just basically reiterating articles with the one little tiny little news snippet of information added to it. But that is not, believe it or not, even though we wasted a lot of time talking about it, it's not why we're here.
No.
In the middle of all of this tumult, to use a fancy word like gymnasium, Neil Sean, sole founding member left in the band. Then there was that whole coup thing, but that's another story.
By Ross Valerie.
Yeah, he went off and did some very, very small gigs. I mean, he does gigs anyway, but these ones were different. I would say, 2018, 2019, this all occurred. And he was calling it Journey Through Time. And it was he and Dean Castronovo, who was erstwhile from Journey at the time, due to some pretty serious personal issues, cleaned himself up. And also Marco Mendoza, who Neil had played with before, Journey bass player, no pun intended. A guy named John Varn, which is not a name I recognize. I'm sure someone out there will say, well, he did this and this and this. Thank you very much. He's on the second keyboard. But the biggest thing, the coolest thing is Mr. Gregg Rolie.
Yes,
undoubtedly. Who co-founded Journey with Neil back in 1973, having both just come from Santana. They went out and did some very, very small shows, like in small venues. And it was like the diehard Journey fans' dream set list. It was incredible. If you're like me and you love the pre-Steve Perry stuff as much as you like the other stuff, and it never gets any attention, the deeper cuts from Infinity and Evolution and Departure, and just a hint of post 1980 stuff.
Well,
this was it. Yeah. And I remember thinking, it's a shame this will never come out. See clips on YouTube, like there's no way that the Journey organization will allow this to come out. Well, happily, I don't know how long ago it was now. And this was the start of me, in my own mind, getting back into fandom, which I've never stopped loving the music. It just, sometimes the people behind it are just, I don't know. So yeah, it was announced that this was coming out, and guess what? It's out.
It's out.
And it looks like this. It's under Neil's name, but guess what? You can just go like, whoop.
Yeah, Journey, it looks like a Journey album.
Yeah. I think, I mean, they should have positioned it so it just said Journey along. They could have put Neil's name here somewhere, but Journey and then Through Time.
You know, Tim, there might have been, like, you know how these guys like to litigate. There could have been contractual reasons that the name Journey must be within the words Journey Through Time and no larger or highlighted than, you know.
Yeah, it could be right down
very
to
possible.
The print size.
You wouldn't be surprised.
So, no, not one bit. So even though this is technically a Neil Schon release, this is a Journey live album as far as I'm concerned, and boy, is it a good one. Live in San Francisco. I don't think it says exactly when it was recorded. I should also mention Mike's copy has been waylaid, but it is coming.
Thanks for picking up my mail. Not.
And you can kind of get an idea of how small the venue is.
You sent me some video clips actually on the other night, and I was kind of blown away by seeing the five guys all crammed together in that small space, jamming.
Speaking of video footage, let's run that now.
So what do you think, Rufus? We're going to watch this Journey Through Time DVD. Whoa! All right. That was... So here we are. There's the menu. Yeah. Stella, you going to come in and watch this with us? She is not. Theo's not either. Ladies and gentlemen, Kohoutek, one of my favorite instrumentals of all time. This is so, so good.
Okay, there'll be some copyright strikes. We know this, but yeah, I hope that gives you an idea. Like, and if you're watching that footage going, I don't know what song they're doing. Well,
it's an 8-minute version of Kohoutek. Okay.
Yeah, there's some Kohoutek. There's some I'm Gonna Leave You. Oh man, just so good, right?
Just let the riff run, and Neil just solos over it. And I mean, we were talking while I was listening to this.
Yeah, he's just,
and yeah, it's what you want.
You can tell that he was glad to be there. He was happy to be on stage. He's always a professional, but he's stepping up to the mic and singing background vocals a lot more than he had been. Yeah, like it's like the fire is back. And I remember him posting a lot about doing these shows, and
he was happy.
He was happy. So I don't know, like the package that I got is 3 CDs, 1 DVD. The DVD is the complete performance. There are no songs that are dropped, and it is chock full. I think I counted from the first 3 Journey albums, which would be let me see, 7. I hate counting. 15. I believe that's 23 songs altogether. They do 9 songs, so that's a pretty good cross section. So I'm talking about, Look Into the Future, All the Lifetime, Mystery Mountain, Nickel and Dime. Oh man, like it's insane the deep cuts on here, and even it's easy to take for granted even the big Journey albums. I forgot how much I loved like Daydream and Lady Luck from Evolution.
Yeah, those deep cuts are really worth revisiting.
Which brings me to my next point. I don't know what your thoughts are, Mike. We didn't talk about this much, but the whole performance is really quite good. But I think Dean Castronovo is the MVP of this.
So we talked about this, and I kind of poo-pooed you a little bit because I'm a Steve Smith fan. But when it comes down to the singing, somebody had to sing those Steve Perry tracks.
That's mainly what I'm talking about. Perfectly great drummer.
Yeah.
Is he Steve Smith? Is he Ainsley Dunbar? Who is? No, but vocally, after being, after what that guy, I'm going to say, did to himself, with his addiction issues and he had legal issues. It's no joke.
It's a big comeback what he did here.
And you can tell, especially when he steps up. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but I was talking to our good friend John T. Snow.
Yep.
And I convinced him. I believe I've got him convinced to buy this. And I'm like, oh, John, you want this. Trust me. If you're an old school Journey fan, you definitely want this. I don't know. Do we want to go over the track listing? Because it's a pretty substantive track listing.
I think we should run through it, although I can't comment on it too much because I basically binged all 3 CDs yesterday morning.
It's a lot.
It hit me in the face as just like this wall of jam. And that was what I took away from it was these songs do not, they meander and they really dig into them. And it's a thing of beauty to hear Journey.
The first
Journey,
the first 3 Journey albums, to this day, it's criminal. None of those albums are gold. None of those albums are certified. I don't think anywhere in the world. I'm a huge fan of them. I have the fondest of memories of discovering them because back in, say, 89, when I was first really getting into the band, at a certain point, pre-internet kids, I thought Infinity was the first album.
Yeah.
I really did. I didn't realize they had 3 albums before that. I read it in an old rock reference book that there were 3 albums. I got the titles, and it just so happens I started to find the cassettes pop up stateside, lived on the border. And, I've always been a fan of Greg Raleigh, his singing. No, he's not Steve Perry, but he provided a really good counterpoint to Perry's soaring, like tenor vocal.
Absolutely.
He's got kind of a mid voice. So he does the majority of the vocals on these first 3 albums. I think Neil sings a couple of songs on them. But,
yes, he does.
And these are not 4-minute pop rock songs. These are, it's closer to progressive. Like it really is closer to prog. What it is, and I've heard it described this way, and I kind of agree. It's like if you take Santana, but take out all the Latin elements, that's kind of what you get here. Some people have called it fusion. I just call it really good. You've got 21-year-old Neil Schon on that first album, just ripping. And it's all 4 of those guys. Because, originally they were a 5-piece. They had George Tickner on second guitar. But Ainsley Dunbar on drums is like an octopus. I mean, just insane. You can see why he only lasted 1 album once Perry joined, because he would have overplayed everything.
Yeah.
And Ainsley's great. listen to the 1987 Whitesnake album for further proof of that. And then he was in Jefferson Starship. But Steve Smith knew when to play and when not to play. So I think Steve Smith's the Journey drummer. I'm just going to say it. But Dean, when they got Dean, they just happened to get a guy that not only was a completely competent drummer, but he could also handle the Steve Perry vocals with ease.
I can't believe that guy. Like, we listened to this yesterday, you and I.
Yeah.
And I was just like, he's singing some of these songs, dare I say it, better than Arnel currently sings them. More grit. In some of those songs required
he's got
just
a little
tad
bit
more
grit in his voice, and it works so well. I mean, they could have, he could have pulled a Phil Collins and stepped up from behind the drum set and led the band. I don't think he wanted to. But at the same time,
not, because he could have been a frontman on the front of the stage. Yeah. Clearly.
But I like the fact that, they ended up with two guys in the band that could sing that material. It's a great, voice saver for Steve Augeri and for Arnel.
Yeah.
And he would take the occasional lead vocal on some of the songs. But for him to come back, we'll get into the set list. But there's one part in particular where you could see he's quite overcome and people have accepted him back. And when he goes into one song in particular, you know what I'm talking about. People are like, I just can't believe I'm hearing this live.
Okay, I was going to say, I hope you're going to mention that song.
Yeah. So this one, the whole thing starts off with "I'm Gonna Leave You," which is funny because I know that a lot of people who aren't familiar with the early Journey, maybe not this live version because it's down-tuned, but if you hear the studio version, it comes on.
Very, yeah.
The first thing people are going to say is, well, that sounds like Carry On Wayward Son.
Kind of.
But guess what came out first? This came out first. Guess who toured together during that period? Journey in Kansas. Ahead of the time. Now, Kansas, that's only part of Wayward Son. It's the foundation of this particular song. But when it kicks in, it's almost like the whole Spirit, Taurus, Stairway to Heaven thing. You know that it's not the song, but it sure makes you think of it.
Yeah.
Now also they were on the same label, so there would have been, so they open with that. Now I'm going to admit, I'm not going into this with rose-colored glasses. I mean, Raleigh sounds a bit shaky on some of the songs.
Yeah, especially when he goes into some of the higher notes. Yeah. But I mean, we talked about 71. Age.
He also would have been 71, 72 when he did this, and it's fine. It's fine.
It is fine. I'm 50. You should hear me try to sing some of those notes.
It's Raleigh was never going to be that tenor singer that obviously the record label wanted and they got with Steve Perry. But I always liked his voice. It's just kind of a cool, like, mid voice. And I just always thought the guy was just cool, like playing that Hammond B3 and
yes.
And that's what he's doing. He's got that John Byrne behind him on the synths, but Greg's got that great big cabinet, big wooden cabinet with the B3, and he's just rocking it. So, they go. It's funny. They go right from "I'm Gonna Leave You" into "Look Into the Future," which is quite a slower tune.
Yeah.
And it's a long. These are 2 8-minute songs that continues with Kohoutek, as I mentioned. It's one of my favorite instrumentals ever.
And you got 25 minutes right there, early album jamming to start the set. 25 minutes.
Yeah, and you can. I think they did that on purpose because if you came there expecting to hear the Dirty Dozen,
right, it's
not for you.
And we talked about this yesterday a
bit. This is Journey for diehards that know all of those early albums and know them inside out. So then we get our first Steve Perry era song.
Yeah.
Daydream. I already mentioned that from Evolution. Oh man, is this ever good? The song sounds like it is. It just kind of floats in.
Yeah. It's brilliant the way that they just kind of slid it in there unexpectedly.
Yeah. Then they do an old favorite, La Doo Da.
That's very Perry, and Dean just kicks it. Like, that's probably the first moment where you're like, wow, Dean is really serious on the vocals.
And he's not forgoing any of those high notes.
No, not at all. He does it authentically, that if you were listening to this, you might think to yourself, is that young Steve Perry? You would be forgiven if you thought that.
If you hear old Journey live recordings from that time, he's right there. And they go right into Line of Fire, which is awesome. Like, because they both have that shuffle beat, but next thing you know, da 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 da. So good, man. So good. And that's when I really started to notice Neil's getting into the singing. Next up, I would never pick it as one of my favorite Journey songs, but it sure is fun live. Walks Like a Lady.
Yeah, not one of my favorites either.
No, it's not one of my favorites, but they do it so well. And it's 7 minutes long. It's 7:16 long. It's longer than the album version. They always stretched it out. They kind of do it like it is on Captured, which that was my first Journey album, was Captured, actually.
Oh, nice.
Big fan of that album.
Me too.
And then they do the iconic, they're two separate tracks. They do Feeling That Way and then Anytime. And it's not the instant, because that's like a rock radio.
Yeah, it's a splice.
Usually basically. They play both of those songs together. It's like Led Zeppelin, like
Thank You, Celebration Day.
Heartbreaker, Live and Love and Made. One, you don't hear one without the other. But they do have a little bit of an interlude in between, probably to make sure they get the right key when they start the a cappella part. That's disc one, and already it's like you've got such a what's the word, swathe of early material there. And guess what? One song that was a top 40 single, Walks Like a Lady, and a minor one at that.
Yeah, very minor.
Number 36, something like that. So nothing the average listener would know. Meanwhile, we're just frothing to keep more. We want more.
Well, one of the phrases I used when we were talking yesterday, and it's somewhat disparaging, but I said this album is not for the beer crowd. And I'm talking about the festival people who just want to go, yeah, don't stop believing.
Yeah.
And, but having said that, listen to it, enjoy it. There's a side of Journey here that you guys have been missing.
I have been trumpeting. I did an entire episode a while ago just talking about the early Journey stuff. I hate the fact that none of those albums, I'm really surprised, as big as this band was, where they've got these 3 million, 4 million, 5 million diamond selling albums, that those early albums didn't at least go gold. I mean, when same
with Deep Purple, though, if I'm not mistaken.
When Speedwagon got big with High Infidelity, even some of the early albums like REO2 and Riding the Storm Out went gold and some platinum. So I have to think that, maybe the singer they had didn't want the record company promoting them for some.
It would make sense if they took these 3 records and reissued them in some kind of hits package called, I don't know, From the Beginning, or In the Start, or something like that. It would be a good idea.
Yeah, pretty good overview. Boy, it's a shame. Every Journey fan should really try to add that to their collection. I should have done that. People laugh at me. I used to do this a lot. I'd kind of make a serious point and then I'd go.
For those who don't know, Tim's been trying to get me to buy the Journey compilation In the Beginning, which features the first 3 albums. Even though I already own the first 3 albums, he's trying to get me to spend this money.
I should clarify, it's not the first 3 albums in their entirety. It's a comp. I think it's got 16 songs on it or 15 songs on it, but that's a lot of those albums. Anyway, this two starts off somewhat predictably, starts off with Lights, and they do something really cool here, because you kind of expect them to go into Stay a While, but they don't. They go into Still They Ride.
Yeah, that was good.
Again, Dean killing it on the vocals. And so, there is a little bit of Escape Forward. And this is the first time you hear any of that. What a great song. A top 20 single that I've never heard on the radio, which is a shame. It's such a great song. So, and then they do Separate Ways, which, it's one of my favorite. No, who am I kidding? It is my favorite of the big songs. No question. I never get tired. I like some others. I never get tired of hearing Separate Ways. I've always got time for it. I can't imagine it being the easiest song to sing and play drums to, because it's far from a 4/4 beat.
Listen to the drums. It's very cool.
Fills and so.
That Steve Smith wrote that drum part.
Yeah, Love and Touch and Squeeze is next. Which, honestly, I've never heard a live version of this where I thought, I wish they'd play it longer. I've always wished that they would make this part of a medley. Everybody and the dog knows the na 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 na. Like, I'm just being really picky. There are so many songs I love so much from this band, and they're playing a lot of them here, but I understand. And which brings me to my other point. We were talking about this too. Once we get to the end of the track listing, I think people will understand. there really aren't that many standards that are missing.
Right. We talked about that yesterday.
It's not like they didn't have well-known songs prior to Jonathan Cain joining and the Skate coming in.
That's right.
They didn't have the top 10 songs, but they still, you know. And next up, Wheel in the Sky.
Yeah.
One of their best known songs. I think it peaked at 57 on the chart, but it's a rock radio staple. I've always thought they play it too fast in concert. I always like the way that the studio version kind of breathes, but it's great.
Yes.
It's great. Then, probably one of the highlights of this, Dean steps out from behind the kit. So it's just Neil playing guitar and Dean singing the most incredible little medley of songs. The first song that Neil and Steve Perry ever wrote, Patiently. So good. So good. And you could tell Dean's nervous. He's nervous about being up there. Then you can hear people in the audience just lose it. And I would have been one of them too.
This is my favorite.
The title song from Trial by Fire, which I don't think was ever performed live. Did they ever do much of anything from Trial by Fire? There was no tour for it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
When Jerry joined, I've never seen any of these songs done live.
I don't know. There was definitely a gap between Jerry joining and them heading out and doing gigs and the album being released. They weren't promoting the album when Jerry got out there and they started performing.
As far as promoting goes, it was dead. Right?
And they were trying to reestablish the band and the brand. Yeah. They were trying to reestablish that. And I think they probably just went out there with a hit set list. You know, I don't think they bothered with, let's play something from Trial by Fire because it was on the radio 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But they play a little bit of that title track.
They could have done Message of Love or When You Love a Woman. But anyway, yeah. So here's Dean singing Trial by Fire.
A track I love. It's so atmospheric. It's slow. It's, oh God, it's so good. The guitar on it is so good. And to hear that, and you hear somebody in the audience going like, oh my God. So there were clearly some Journey diehards there that listened to the entire history of the band.
I know. And I love that. You know.
That was an unexpected surprise, man. Like when you're seeing Journey Through Time and it's focused on essentially the Greg Raleigh years, you do not expect them to throw on an obscurity like Trial by Fire.
96, like you know,
way out of the ballpark, way out.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
That was a home run.
It tells me there was a lot of thought put into this. You know,
clearly you were talking about
a lot of rehearsing. To the point where you can see, you know, like Marco Mendoza, we'll get to him in a bit, but he's got a music stand in front of him.
Oh, so
it's not the easiest stuff to, you know, pull out. Let's just learn this and go. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then they wrap up that little medley with Stay a While, which you better have some vocal chops if you're going to do that song. You don't want your voice cracking when it's just you and guitar. It's a Steve Perry, you know, tour de force. It's one of those examples, like this is why they called him the voice, whether you're listening to the studio version on Departure or commonly they would go from Lights into Stay a While.
Yes.
So here's Dean by himself out front without the drums in front of him. And he's killing it, man.
He nailed it. He did a very good job on Stay a While.
What I like about it's not karaoke either. He's throwing in his own.
Yes.
His own flourishes. Okay,
it's like listening to a singer doing the Star Spangled Banner and throwing in their own little accents, but also nailing it perfectly without disrespecting the song.
Just like I always think of The Simpsons. Remember that in the early say.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. But better.
But much better. Next up, I got to talk about this for a bit. I got to give a shout out to my good buddy John, buddies for a long time, and fortunately, he got into the stuff right around the same time I did. Mystery Mountain, which is the closing track from their first album, and
that was great.
Highlighted this in you know, when I played that little clip of the videos. First time he listened to this song. It's so 70s, man. It's like, let's write a song about volcanoes. I love it. But the line in the second verse says, the mountain is crying hot lava tears. Okay? John, being John, heard it, and he goes, "Did he just say the mountainous flying hot dog appears? And forever and a day, that's all I've ever heard. Mountainous flying hot dog appears." So there you go. I'm so glad they did that. And then they go into, I think, the highlight of the early days. First song, first album of a lifetime. What an epic track. Oh,
great vocal too.
Just killing it. Oh, so good. And then one of my favorite, my favorite dual vocal with Perry and Raleigh, just the same way. Love that song. I can't believe it only hit like number 80 on the singles charts. It's such a catchy song. I don't know why it didn't get more play, but they do it really good here. And then they wind it up with another great rocker from Evolution. It makes me think I got to listen to Evolution more.
Yeah, I just bought it.
Great song. And that winds up disc 2. If you're watching it on DVD or Blu-ray, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then they continue with the great songs from Evolution on disc 3, kicking it off with Lady Luck, another slow rocker from that album. Next up, You're on Your Own from Look into the Future, which this is one that's kind of tough vocally because there's some falsetto stuff that Raleigh does, and he, gets through it. It's not bad.
It's shaky. It sounds like as if I was doing falsetto, basically.
It's interesting because I never realized this before. There's an old clip of them doing that song in a rehearsal. It's not live and it's not the studio version, but Ross Valerie is singing the same part as Raleigh, Try and Make Up Your Mind. So it sounds, and then you go and you listen to it. Well, yeah, that is a doubled vocal. Never thought of that before. Next up, I get such a kick out of this song because it's so unlike Journey lyrically, and the title, Hustler.
Yeah.
It's from Next. I think they gave this one to Ainsley Dunbar to write the lyrics for.
Yes.
It sounds like something that Gene Simmons or David Coverdale would have written. Get beside women, all men desire. Like, it's just so on Journey, right?
It's really,
And Marco Mendoza sings this one. Yeah. I had no idea he sang.
Yeah.
Other than grunting out a few background vocals. I mean, and it took me a while to realize, well, that's not Greg singing that. I mean, he sang it on the studio version on Next. And speaking of Next, I love Cahotek, but knocking at its door is nickel and dime as far as instrumentals go.
Yes.
Do you know why? I don't think we've talked about this. Do you know why it's called nickel and dime?
It's something to do with the time signature, 5 and 7.
Yeah, it's 5 and 10.
5, yeah.
Yeah. This song alone would have been like weeks and weeks of rehearsals for most musicians. It's in an odd time signature, and I still hear it to this day, and it reminds me of Rush. I hear bits of Tom Sawyer. I hear bits
100%.
of Xanadu. But yeah, it's awesome. And then they do really obscure track People from Next, which is
a lot of these tracks. I had to remind myself because it's like I don't listen to those first 3 albums probably as often as you do. So I really had to remind myself what People was and what Hustler was and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, the first one is my favorite. It's the one I've listened to the most, but I really like all 3 of them. Okay, then they get into, from here on, it's familiar territory. Most Journey fans know Mother, Father. It wasn't a single, but it's an epic track from Escape, and Dean
kicks it again. Not an easy track. A lot of power in there.
And I know this is a special song for Neil because his dad helped with the... I don't know if he co-wrote it, but he helped with the arranging of it because he was an arranger. So then it's basically it's hits, just not all of them are Journey hits.
Right.
Any way you want it. Always a fun live staple. Yep. It's short and sweet. Don't Stop Believing. They kind of have to, but by the time you get to this, it's like I don't mind. I'm there. It's all right.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. In fact, it's justified. How else are you going to end this set except for throwing in some of these really important hits?
And so they throw in 2 really important hits at the end with a nod to where Neil and Greg came from, which is especially Greg. I mean, Greg was a founding member of Santana. So they do Black Magic Woman. So that's when I talk to people about like how Greg Raleigh was Journey's original singer. I'll say, well, Black Magic Woman by Santana. Yeah, well, that's Greg Raleigh's voice.
You know it.
So you've heard it before. You just never heard it with Journey. That's a long jam. And then they do Oi Como Va.
Yep.
Which, again, Marco sings, and he kind of goes a little nuts on it, like just getting people into it.
He definitely takes it off the beaten track.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a cool way to wind things down, and it literally makes it a journey through time for Neil and Greg. And listen, this is a perfectly credible lineup for a band to call itself Journey. I mean, let's look at it this way. There are 2 founding members in this band, which is double how many founding members there are in the current version of Journey. I'm not into any conspiracy theories. I'm just glad they put it out. I'm just really glad they put it out. For a diehard Journey fan, this is what you need to forget all of the nonsense and just realize why you like this band in the first place, and just really dive into those early albums, which always need more light shed on them. You know, even a song like Still They Ride, more people need to know that song. Escape is really top heavy with the hits, but it is a great album. So I'm really glad. I've got no qualms with the set list. There is one thing I want to point out, and see if anybody, I'll hold this up, see if anybody notices disc 2 track listing.
Okay, so I see lights still, it's a little blurry.
Is that better?
It's out of focus. You have to move it back, I think.
Okay.
There we go.
Try to move it in.
Okay, so Separate Ways, Love and Touch and Squeeze, and Wheel in the Sky, Patiently, Trial by Fire. They're missing part of that medley in the listing. Patiently, Trial by Fire in the...
There's no...
Stay a While should be there. Oh, Stay a While is listed as separate. Stay a While is there. Oh, there it is. It's just on a separate line. Mystery Mountain, Of a Lifetime, Just the Same Way, and Loving You Is Easy.
There's no number 8.
See, I can't even see that. Okay, you're right. It goes from 7 to 9. Okay,
Mystery Mountain is number 7. Of a Lifetime is not, like, there's no 8. It's weird. It's one of those things. I can't believe it made it that far off the drawing board. That's just something I noticed.
Hey, man, I've written a lot of stuff, and sometimes I can't spell my own name. So,
oh yeah, no, it's just something, because I had to add this to Discogs.
Yes, you did.
Nobody had added it, and I hate doing that because I'm sorry, but people on Discogs can be rude. Well, you didn't put this and you didn't put that, and it's your thumb. Is your thumb part? Someone said, "Is your thumb part of the, whatever?" It's just like,
what, because of the photo you took?
Yeah, it would come up like
you took a picture of the
like,
okay. So
that.
What is your thumb part of this?
It's just like, dude. Number 1, who hurt you? Why are you so triggered by this? Number 2, take your own photo and add it. I didn't want to create the listing for it, but when I was creating the listing for it, that's when wait a second. There's no number 8 anyway. But it's fantastic, and trust me, if you're a diehard Journey fan, you want to get this. You just do. And listen, it's a Frontiers album's release. We don't know how long this will be around. So, and
at this value,
and the one thing you don't want to do is have to pay the late tax.
There it is.
You don't want to pay the damn late tax. You want to get this now while it's fresh, and you will enjoy it. It's a lot to take in. You'll probably want to take it in sections, but
I did.
It's just a feast. It's a feast for the diehard Journey fan, and I'm so glad it was finally made available. I can't like unreservedly. I recommend this. There's no there's none of that. It's like, yeah, you got to get it.
If I may add a point here, we had a smorgasbord of Journey available recently, and there was the recent official Live at Lollapalooza double album from their current tour. Yet the current Journey on their current tour is not playing current music. They're not playing anything from Freedom. So really, if you want a Journey experience, I think this is a better buy than the Live at Lollapalooza.
I don't even have the Lollapalooza one.
Why bother? You've got all the tracks.
I forgot about it. I forgot about it. It was.
Why put out a new live album with your current tour and not play any of the new songs? I don't get it. That to me is just a travesty.
Yeah, it's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
And, but what I like is when something like this comes out, and like I said, thought was put into it.
Value. There's tracks on there you do not have live versions of by any lineup of Journey.
No.
So, and then throwing in something like Trial by Fire in there, even though it's just part of a medley, to me, that trumps anything on the new Journey Lollapalooza thing. They didn't play anything like that.
No.
They didn't play anything post Steve Perry on that I can think of. Anyway, enough ranting about the current journey. We're here to talk about Neal Schon's journey through time.
This is. I would have loved to have seen one of these shows
on that little stage. Those guys crammed up there, sweating and jamming, just like they did in the early 70s.
Exactly. You know, with this, you know, aside from the few songs that are like Escape Onward, this is like Captured on steroids.
Yeah.
You know, and even Captured could have been a longer album than it was, because you can see clips of them from 1980 doing stuff like Of a Lifetime and Kohoutek. Again, I think there's a reason those songs didn't end up on the album, but
we'll talk about that another day.
Neither here nor there. Guys, Neal Schon, Journey Through Time, check it out. If you're just a casual Journey fan, unless you're feeling very adventurous, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're a big catalog fan, yeah, you want to get this and hear these songs like you've never heard them before. You know,
yeah,
modern sound, nice clean sound, not touched up at all, because if it was touched up, the vocal stuff would have been fixed up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. You can tell it's been basically, here's the tapes, master them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have overdubbed something over Greg's notes where he's trying to hit those high notes. But I prefer the authenticity. I always have.
Yeah.
We could talk for days about live albums, but this is something that I highly recommend. I wish I had my own physical copy. I don't know what you paid, but 3 CDs and 1 DVD inside that package, that's value. That's value.
We probably paid the same. I'm guessing we got ours from the same source. So
yeah, I just don't remember. It's been so long.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Journey Through Time. Neal Schon's Journey Through Time. Neal's just one of the guys making it all happen, but it's a really, really cool release. So glad that it came out. Sometimes for litigation or whatever stupid reasons, these things are blocked from coming out, and it would have been a real shame. I think we would have missed out on something very, very special. So Mike, what have you got on the go on Grab a Stack of Rock? I'm there on some of them, but not all of them. But what have you got coming up? Look into the future, if you will.
Looking into the future. I have
evolution of your channel.
It is now
departure
summer
from what's come before. You've captured my attention. How can I escape from that? Explore some new frontiers, Mike.
Did you rehearse that? Did you write those down? Because I am not fast enough to come up with them like that.
I didn't, but that's why Dream After Dream stood out to me when I first found the cassette, because it didn't have a one-word title. I was like, wait, what's that? Anyway,
I thank you. Who knows when this airs? I may have already finished some of these projects, but I'm working on an interview with Greg Fraser from Stormforce and Brighton Rock. He's got a new album coming. Unfortunately, his Facebook was just hacked, so don't contact Greg Fraser on Facebook. And hopefully I can get in touch with him at some point in the future. I'm going to be talking to Steph Hond, the French guitar player who has worked with Paul Di'Anno and Chris Holmes from Wasp, among others. And he just joined a new French band that the name escapes me, but he's got so many projects on the go. Just did an album called Scream Taker with Vinny Appice. So I'm looking forward to talking to Steph at some point in the future. Otherwise, we're just rocking and rolling. We just had Spencer Rice on the show to talk about professional wrestling, and that was a delight. The biggest guest I've ever had. So, out with old, in with the new, and I'm really looking forward to the future. Just, Tim's got the shirt. Tune in to Grab a Stack of Rock some Friday night and see what we've got. Usually though, we're just literally grabbing a stack of rock, looking at it and saying, that's kind of cool. And that's it.
Yep. Simplicity.
So
there you go. So check it out. Grab a Stack of Rock on the YouTubes
and Tim's
and check out MikeLebrain.com, MikeLedano.com. Sorry. Mike's always posting some cool stuff, some cool articles. We got to resume our Night Ranger listening at some point, but there's a lot on the go, which is good. It's good to be busy. So Mike, thanks for taking a little bit of time off to talk about this particular Journey release. Yes, I said it. It is a Journey release. It is nothing but.
I'm filing it under Journey, just like I file Heaven and Hell under Black Sabbath.
Me too. It's just a different name.
So
there you go, guys. Thanks. Let us know if you're, anybody out there that's also got this. What do you think of it?
Yeah.
Anything you need to know about that old Journey, ask one of us. And
ask that guy, actually.
We'll tell you something. All right.
Yeah, we will.
But thank everybody for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and we'll see you later.
Ciao.